So here we are. In the last video, a few people asked whether everything fits into the rucksack, and as you can see, it does, all bar the crossbow, which I intend to carry firmly in my hands should I be making an apocalyptic disaster escape. So come join me as we take a closer look at a couple of bits of the equipment and review their effectiveness. I've also purchased a couple of other bits that I'd like to show too. Here's a piece of equipment that didn't feature in the first video. Can you guess what it might be? See, it's relatively small, very light, as a cap. Can you guess? It didn't actually come with a bag, so I had this little, I think it's an old sleeping bag, but I have a few of these kicking around, so I store it in here with the other parts, which I didn't leave out because it may have given it away. So, this is actually a shower. It's a bag. Here's the back, you can see I've used it. At the front here, you have where you fill it up with water. I actually took some water from the river, ran it through the water filter and put it in here. On the front is a couple of pockets. It tells you you can put soap, etc. And you'll see there's a sturdy handle. There's a plastic tube that runs through that. It's very firm, very thick material, like a sports bag sort of thing. And yeah, that's not very technical. And on the back is transparent. You would actually face this to the sun, and you can see there's a thermometer that tells you the temperature. Now, it claims to be solar powered, but actually marketing is very clever. There is no solar panel. They've made this look like a panel. It's actually the material that absorbs the sun. What happens when you leave a plastic bottle full of water out in the sunlight? Anyone who's done that after a few hours and taken a gulp will know what I mean. Well, it's the same principle that works with this. I discovered that when I took it out. What you have here is a little nozzle that the water comes out. Here I have a hose. This hose is actually one that I replaced because the one that it came with I thought looked a bit weak and it had kinks in it. So I took an old washing machine hose and just cut it down. And the shower head is here, and it has a tap that you turn on and off. It's quite functional. Of all the showers that I looked at, this one was almost the full size head. And here's the original tube that it came with, and you can see it had kinks in it. So what you would do is attach the tube, and just to compare the two, you can see this is somewhat more effective and will stand the test of time. And you essentially connect one end to here, and it hasn't come off yet, but I may well get some hose clips just to ensure it doesn't. If you'd filled that and heated it with water and the hose fell off, you'd be pretty annoyed. And then it's all just pushed together and that fits on, and there you have the shower. So if this was hanging up on a tree, this pointing down, these little clips here are for where you could just tie the shower and hold it. It's got Velcro. So let's have a look at it in action. And here's the shower in action. I've put about 3 litres in that of its 20 litre capacity. You see it's facing the sun. And the gauge here Still has to register. As you can see, the temperature's starting to pick up. Just left this hanging in the sun for a couple of hours. There's just a bit of water in there. And I think that temperature fluctuates according to how much sun's shining on it. But it's definitely warmer. It's actually quite warm. You see it's quite powerful, right? So you could have a shower. If you wanted a shower to stand under it, you would either maybe make a shorter hose, which is certainly plausible, or just hang it higher. The hose it came with was very light, so I replaced it. In the first video I did show the water filter and explained how it worked, but I think I missed some details because there were some questions raised. So let me briefly go through it. As you see, this is the pack that it comes in, folds away nice and tight. I try and keep this near the top of the backpack. I don't want things sitting on top of it. When you're packing, consider those things that it doesn't matter that get squashed and those that would be affected. So here's all the constituent parts of the water filter. So this is the bag that you would gather the water in, and the handle that you would slide. It has an opening here, and you would scoop the water. And in the last video I was asked if I got water somewhere else or took it from the river that I was camping next to. And I actually filtered the water that I camped next to. Ideally you would be somewhere that there's fast flowing water, a weir or a waterfall, or you know, something that means the water's not sitting stagnant. But this water filter here will filter. It's a mini well water filter. I don't know if that's reversed on camera, but it will filter 99.9% of all bacteria. And having read about it, and again I've done lots of research, this seemed for my purposes the best. Yeah, people talked about you can get a cup, etc., and I did look at those, but they're very limited. This water filter can filter 2,000 litres of dirty, polluted water, and if you backwash it, i.e. reverse it and run clean water through, so let's say you filtered some dirty water and you've ended up with a clean water in your bag and collected, this holds 3 litres, and you just run it through here and wash the filter out and it extends the life. I may well buy just one of these to have as a spare. But 2,000 litres. My thinking was, yes, I'm preparing for myself, but we all need things to barter, and water is definitely something in an apocalyptic situation. We've all seen Mad Max, right? Would be worth having. And furthermore, you can help people. Everybody needs something to drink. So this was my thinking, and actually this can be used as a straw. So as you would see, this is the flow of it this way. You would just reverse it and drink through this end. So you could just put this into the water and drink. Otherwise you attach the various hoses. So hose attached to this end. The hose attaches to this end. It's called a gravity water filter. Let's not get into a discussion about what gravity is, but in the terms of what goes up must come down, this works. You hang it up on a tree, as you saw in the video. The water travels down here, through the filter, and then this end you will then connect and this actually screws on, and this the end of this will take any small water bottle, so those little 225 ml or whatever they are but this is pretty decent. I said 3 litres, I don't think that's the case. I think this is actually 3 litres. Yeah, it is. You can see maybe here, it's 3 litres. This is probably a litre of clean water. But if you had 3 litres in here and it wouldn't all go in here, what you see here is a clip. But when you press it tight, it actually constricts the flow, so it essentially shuts it off. One thing that I would say is, even if you don't bring the water filter in, you just have the pipe attached, when you're collecting water, ensure that the pipe is attached and that it's constricted. I first time collected water in here and then attach the handle, and this seals it off. Essentially this just folds over, and when it's full of water you just run this along here like so, and that, I'm not sure of the mechanics of it, but it holds it very, I'm not going to put it too much, I don't want to rip it, but it certainly is strong enough to hold the water. And I hadn't attached the hose on the end and merrily carried the water and realised it was all dripping out. So just be mindful of that. So as I said, this is a great little water filter. You know, there may be better ones. Personally, I don't think a cup for a survival situation is going to cut it. For a camping trip it might be great, or a festival, but I'm thinking slightly outside of that. The one downside about this that I would say is the material. Now, it is very thick, sort of plastic, polythene, very thick indeed. You couldn't just rip it with your hands. But we're out in the wild and this is a bit plasticky. So I have got some Gorilla Tape and some puncture kits in the event that things tear, but I think these would have a certain limited lifespan if not taken care of. And I could imagine things like around the valve eventually giving way. But like I say, I've got Gorilla Tape, so that could certainly be patched up. One other little thing I got, I'd like to show you. What do you think's in there? What do you reckon? Tiny, very light, nothing to it. But a little addition, not absolutely necessary. What do you think it is? Can you see what it is? It's actually a hand chainsaw, and these are the blades on it. It's remarkable. So you'd hold either hand, either end rather. I should be wearing gloves with this because I've nicked myself a few times, but for the sake of art. And here we have. It's a metre long. Essentially you could cut anything of this width, although it might take a while. I have chopped a few things. It's actually much more effective. It's not as refined as my hand saw, but it's much more effective in terms of speed, and I guess that is dependent upon your strength, pulling power and pace. But you can see all the teeth on it. It's not a bad little piece of kit, and possibly in combat, who knows. Whilst I talked about the tactical shovel and showed it in the first video, I was asked if I could give it a bit more of an in-depth review, so here it is. Before I go on, I should just say I'm not really endorsing any of the equipment that I'm showing. I'm merely highlighting what I've purchased. I'm no Bear Grylls or survival or prepper expert. 18 months ago, I didn't have any of this equipment, and over the last year or so have been pulling it together. So what you now see is the fruits of my labour and research. There may be better equipment, there may be more expensive, there may be cheaper, and if real survivalists watch, they may think I'm a numpty. I've pulled what I've pulled together because after a bit of research and a bit of thought, these are the things that I think I need. I've gone out and tested on multiple occasions and stayed out, and there is no doubt the equipment I have will enable me to survive. And research shows that in an emergency, if you can survive 3 days, you increase your chance of overall survival by 50%. So, the shovel. You'll see that it comes with a shovel head with a separate case. There is a carry case that it comes with, that all of the pieces fit inside, and you can either have a strap to carry on your shoulder, or on the back is a belt loop that you can just wear if you so desire. So the shovel head, as I said, is in its own protective casing, and that's because there are a couple of sharp edges. You'll see here, hopefully you can see that the serrated edge is quite sharp. These holes here are for nuts and bolts, undoing them. I guess in the same way on the end of the fire starter is something for breaking glass. The occasion may arise. However, I'm not going to be using this in an urban environment, so unlikely, but hey, we may be going into town for supply trips. Here we have the shovel head. I've filed this and sharpened it. I've got a sharpening stone and a leather that I'll be sharpening that more. And on this side is an axe head. As an axe head, it's not brilliant. It's more like a really thick knife. It will chop through thin branches, but that's not really what I use this for or purchased it for. Ultimately, I purchased it for a shovel and something heavy that could also be used as a self-defense weapon should the need arise. And it's fair to say that would cause some damage. And so here we have the head. It swivels, and if you remember, I said it comes in a couple of different adaptations. So that's one position, and if I just screw, make sure I pick the right one up now. And it's very robust and thick and solid. You know, some of the equipment that I've read about, people complained, you know, that's solid. Let's just give that a tighten. As you'll see, that's not going anywhere. And funny enough, I thought, you know, why would you need a hoe? But actually, that's quite useful. Let me just show you the other part. So as it comes stored, the knife is stored inside the tube, and you could store other things in there, and then it simply screws on the end, and it's probably 4 or 5 inches. Again, the specs will be in the description if you want to know precise, and you screw that round, and as I showed before, it's got the serrated knife edge, a sharp knife edge, which is still remarkably sharp having used it. I'm not running my finger there, but having used it on the fire starter, it's still got a real sharpness to it. And these gnarly things that, I don't know, maybe poke a fish or something. And that would then attach so, and you can see you have in and of itself quite a formidable weapon. It's heavy, so you wouldn't want that to hit you around the head. And that then fits inside there. And again, it's all screwed up, and there are rubber seals in here as well, so no water's getting in there. And it really is a really solidly built piece of equipment. And I was thinking, just before I show you, and this then screws into the end, and you see it's one piece. And the shovel head adapts. Now, I've showed you the hoe. We all know what a shovel looks like, so I'm not going to straighten it to that, but I would like to show you another position. And I thought, like, what would that be for? And they call it a hook. Let me just unscrew that. So in and of itself, let's say that you were needing a weapon to fight zombies in this fairy tale future, then you've got something quite solid, and then you've got another piece here. But if you adapt it down to the third position, and it's called a hook, so I guess maybe if you were like in the movies wanting to throw it on top of a building and climb up, you could. You can see there's a hook. But I thought a shield, that would be quite useful if somebody was swinging something at you to block it, eh? You can see. Anyway, maybe just my imagination and it's silly. But as a tool, now obviously it's a shovel firstly and not a weapon. I do not endorse violence of any kind. Self-defense, however, is a different matter. And should somebody think that they can take my backpack, then maybe they would need to look at what I'm holding in my hands before they try. Let's take a look at the shovel in action. After the first video, I was asked what I meant by self-inflating mattress and self-inflating pillow and whether there was a button to push. So I thought I'd just show you. Is the pillow already inflated? When it arrives, it's obviously all rolled up, and what you would do is just unroll it and open this valve. Now, because it's already inflated, you won't really hear anything happening. Unlike a bicycle valve that you need to push air into, when you open this valve up, air is drawn into it somehow. I'm not an engineer, so I don't know. But if you see now it's open, when I push it, it pushes the air out, and this is how you would just roll it up to pack it away. Yeah? And it would push the air out. And then when it's all done, you would just close the valve. But let me show you how this works. So if I push all the air out, or most of it, and I release it, you'll see the valve draws air in and the pillow re-inflates. Now I always give it a few breaths to finish it off. Seal the valve, and a self-inflating pillow. And the same principle works for the mattress. You see the valve here. I'm not going to open it, otherwise we'll have the mattress inflating, maybe a comedy moment, but it's the same principle. So that's how the mattress and the pillow self-inflate. So that's me going down for the night. Beautiful full moon, although on a phone camera you can't really see it that well. I hope you found those 2 videos of some use. And remember, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.